Okay, so before we begin, let's take a few moments to worship the Supreme One, the infinitely compassionate One, the Exalted One, the Supreme Buddha. To do this, please be upstanding and recite the Namaskar with me. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. You may now all be seated. Let's all make this determination with me. May the qualities of the great Arhats, whose footsteps were a blessing to the earth, may I achieve these qualities. May these qualities be part of me. And using these qualities, may I also achieve what they achieved. May I also attain supreme bliss and enlightenment. Making a firm determination like that, let's begin. Okay, so today we're going to talk about a story of a great woman. Now the question is, why was she great? She was very smart, very intelligent. And there's a time when she had to think for herself. When she had to make the right decision. When she had to stand up to, you can almost say, her bully. And she's not only stood up, but she won. She won the battle. And also, this story can also show, no matter how smart you are, no matter how clever, how pretty, how beautiful you are, if you're deluded with ignorance and attachment, then there is pretty much no stopping you from doing things. And you'll see why later. So to begin our story, let's go back, far back through countless eons to the time of the Buddha Padmuttara. So at the time of the Buddha Padmuttara, our great lady was born into a good family. You see, this family was very fond of the Dharma, was very fond of the Buddha, and was very fond of the Sangha as well. So it was obvious that when she grew older, she was also like her parents. She also enjoyed doing meritorious deeds, going to the temple, offering flowers, and so on and so forth. And so she was someone who frequently went to the temple to do merits, to give alms. And she enjoyed doing it. This is not something that she was forced to do. She enjoyed doing all this merit. But not only merit, she also enjoyed listening to the Dharma, because that's what she liked. No one forced her to do anything. She did it. But one day, she got up early one morning, put on her clean white clothes, went out, picked flowers, and put these flowers all into a basket, took some oils, took some incense sticks, and took some food. So taking all that with her, she left her house with her family to go to the temple. There, she saw the Buddha sit in front of the gathering of monks and lay people, and saw that in front of the whole gathering, next to the Buddha, was another nun. A nun that she's seen before but doesn't know who she is. So after making her offering, she sat down and listened to the Buddha preach the Dharma. And then, after he concluded, she saw him give the title, the foremost among nuns, who are quick in the deep knowledge, and pointed that nun who was in front of the gathering. Now she was wowed. Look at her. She is someone who is quick to understand the deep knowledge, the Dharma. Wow. I wish I could be like her. I wish I could be someone who could understand Dharma like her. And so, do you know what she did? She went back home, sat on the sofa or sat on the couch, and fell asleep. No, I'm kidding. Nothing like that happened. When she had the role model, this young woman went and did merit, hoping that one day she could be like her, that she could be like that nun. She became her role model. She became someone who inspired her. Now, this young woman worked hard, doing merit, and think about it, right? Her role model is someone who had understood the Dharma. The foremost nun who was quick to understand the deep Dharma. Which meant if she wants to be someone smart or someone who wants to understand deep Dharma, what's she going to do? She's going to have to listen to the Dharma. And these are all things that she enjoyed doing. So this made no difference into her life. Except she had one goal. Everything that she did before, she still did. But the only difference was she had one aim now. She was focused to one point. I will become like my role model. I will one day be like the foremost among the nuns who understood the deep knowledge. So it wasn't a surprise when she passed away and was born in the heavenly planes. She was born among the gods, among deities. And when she had spent her time there, she was born as a human and spent 100,000 eons in the blissful planes. Which means humans, devas, gods, until the time of the Buddha Kashapa. Now, if you remember the stories of other great nuns, for example, Patachara, Kisagotami, and all those others, you should remember back in their stories as well, back in the time of the Buddha Kashapa, the king Kasi, in the kingdom of Kiki, there were 7 sisters. So our young woman was one of those sisters. She was one of those sisters who practiced the path and who protected the precepts vigorously. Now, she didn't do it for just 1-2 years. She did it for her entire life. She didn't live for just 50-60 years. She lived for 20,000 years. And in these 20,000 years, she protected her precepts and she lived celibate. Think about it, right? If we look back at our lives, how many times have we lied? You know, the simple white lies. We have lied countless times. But she didn't lie. She didn't hurt anyone. She didn't swear for 20,000 years. Also, she lived celibate. And not only that, she contributed to the construction of a monastery for the Mahasangha. A massive monastery. And so again, when she passed away, she was reborn again amongst the gods, the deities, especially at the time when there was no Buddhas, when there was no Dharma, when there was no Sangha, until she was born in the time of the Gautama Buddha. You see, that was a very big meritorious deed to protect the precepts, because that's all she did. Protect the precepts and build a monastery. That's it. And that gave her enough merits to live in the blissful plains for eons. Because the gap between 2 Buddhas is many incalculable eons. You can't calculate how many eons. And you probably heard how big an eon is. So she was able to live in the blissful plains for that long. So anyway, so at the time of the Gautama Buddha, she was conceived in a rich merchant's family in the city of Rajagaha, in the kingdom of Magadha. they gave her the name Bhadda, which means auspicious. You see, she was prophesied to do something horrendous. In her parents' eyes, it was something that she shouldn't be doing. She was prophesied to be in love with the wrongdoer. So, just like the story of Rapunzel, her parents confined her to the top floor of a 7-story mansion. And she was pretty beautiful as well. So imagine at a small age, people would stare. And so when she came of age, her parents probably got scared as well. And so put her on the top floor of a 7-story mansion to stop all that. Stop her getting into trouble and stop her from giving trouble as well. But on that very day, the king woke up. He had a bad feeling about something. And so he looked around his chamber. Everything seemed normal. But then he saw something different. He saw his sword start to glow, start to glisten. So imagine the king just woke up from a dream, and so he's not sure if this is real or not. But his sword was glowing almost, glowing in the moonlight. And so he looked left and right and saw the swords that are hanged on the wall. They also glowed, they also glistened. Now imagine this king got up in a hurry because he didn't know if he was dreaming or not. So he went, you can imagine he went and washed his face, but came back to see his weapons still glowing. Now, if you were the king or queen, you are always in constant fear that someone's plotting against you, that someone's going to kill you, or that your kingdom will turn against you. So this king woke up to see his weapons glow. He knew that he couldn't go back to sleep now. He was scared. So in the morning, the king got out of the chamber. He looked very sleepy. And so when he went into the throne room, his royal chaplain came into the room and asked the king, "Your Highness, did you sleep comfortably today?" The king replied saying, "How can I sleep comfortably? How can I sleep at all? Teacher, in the middle of the night I woke up to see my weapons glow, my weapons glisten, twinkle in the moonlight. It wasn't just my chamber though. When I woke up I saw every single weapon in my palace start to glow. Oh, royal chaplain, I couldn't go to sleep. I was scared." And the chaplain replied, "Great king, don't worry. This is not something that had just happened in the palace. Throughout the whole city, every single weapon, whether it was arrows, whether it was knives, whether it was even the butter knife, every single weapon that could have been used started to glow, started to twinkle in the moonlight. Many people, there was a commotion. But many people woke up and were scared. People got together. It is a bad omen to the city." And so the king asked, "There must be a reason, right? There has to be a reason why not only the weapons of the whole city start to glow. Teacher, do you know the reason?" "Your Majesty, I have some suspicion. You see, early in the morning, my wife gave birth. She gave birth to a baby boy. And so, like tradition, we looked at his horoscope. We looked and we prophesied his future. And they told us The soothsayers the soothsayers told us that my child was born under the thieves' constellation. He will become an enemy to the whole city. So, dear king, I believe that the birth of my son is the reason for all this. I advise you, king, to do something before it's too late. If you want, dear king, we can stop it before it gets out of hand. And the king replied, No, teacher, there is no need to harm him. There is no need to end his life. Right now, he is no harm to us. Right now, he is an innocent, vulnerable, young baby boy. I believe you'll be able to change him, change his ways, to become a great person. So they should remind you of the story of Angulimala, because Angulimala was also born under the thieving star, and the king also let him off. So in the future, Ahinsaka became Angulimala. So let's see what this baby boy, or this newborn child becomes. So the chaplain bows down and says to the king, Your Majesty, it seems like my son came into the world bearing his own name. I give him the name Satuka, which meant little enemy. So Bhadda grew up in the merchant's home, whereas Satuka grew up in the home of the chaplain. Both grew up in luxury. Just like an ordinary child, Satuka loved playing, loved running about. But one day, after running about in his garden, his massive garden, he went into the kitchen, felt a bit hungry. And so when he went into the kitchen, he saw that the cook was making a treat for them. And so when the cook's back was turned, Satuka took one and ran off. You see, I think the cook may have noticed that what he was cooking, like one bit was missing. And he may have thought that it was okay. Oh, Satuka's a small child. He doesn't know what's right and wrong. Let him have the treat. It's okay. I can make some more. You could imagine that was something that changed Satuka's life. Slowly, whenever he ran around, treats became coins. Coins became bigger and became more valuable. Satuka started with petty thievery, but as he grew older, that wasn't enough to satisfy his hunger for stealing. Soon when he came of age, whenever he wandered into a place, he would go and take the most valuable item and put it in his room, put it in his chamber, in his house. So Satuka slowly but carefully became a kleptomaniac. He couldn't control whether he was he couldn't control what he was stealing. Wherever he went, he would take something and fill his house, fill his room. So you can imagine his room filled with junk, very valuable junk. Now you can imagine his father one day coming into his room, seeing he's got stuff that he didn't buy for him. The father didn't buy for him. And the mother didn't buy for him. That is something that he wouldn't buy for himself. And so the father understood that his son is stealing. And just like any other father, he called Satuka and explained to him, gave him reasons why not to steal, why not to do all this. He didn't give him one reason. He didn't give him one reason one day. He gave thousands of reasons every single day. But unfortunately, that wasn't enough. That wasn't enough to restrain him, to stop him from his act. He couldn't be stopped. So, when this young boy became a young man, his parents understood that it's impossible. No matter how much he was punished, no matter how much they loved him, no matter how much they tried to stop him, it doesn't work. They've tried to keep him grounded until he changes his ways, but the moment he is released of curfew, he arrives to the house with something else. They understood it doesn't work. That they can't stop their child, their one and only child, from stealing. So what they did was they decided, if we can't stop him, then this could be his way of earning money. And so they gave him a pair of black robes, gave him enough money to buy the things he needs, also bought him all the things he needs to carry on his career in thievery. So you can imagine they gave him knives, they gave him a grappling hook to climb walls, and many other things that he needs to break into houses. So from that day onwards, he was pretty happy that he has everything he needs. And so he decides that he will break into all the houses he possibly could. So using his grapple, he would climb the highest walls, go into houses of rich people, and he would ransack the whole house, taking every single thing that had value, and escape without anyone seeing, or even without getting caught. Soon there was not a single house that hasn't been ransacked by him, that hadn't been looted. Every single house in the whole city had been looted by him. So one day, the king travelled around the city in his chariot. So you can imagine, the king woke up pretty happy after having a good night's sleep, right? And he went out the palace doors, and he went out and saw the first house. The door had been smashed open. Everything has been turned and was really messy. And so he understood that someone had stolen from the house. So he felt sad and a bit guilty that, because it's his kingdom, right? He was in control. And so seeing the first house, seeing that had been looted from, he felt a bit guilty. Then they rode to the second house. The second house, the window had been broken. The glass had been smashed. And looking through the window, he saw that this house was also breached and also looted from. Third, fourth, same. Street, still the same. The whole road, still the same. Until the end of his journey, he understood that every single house has been ransacked. Every single house has been breached. The king got off the chariot, told the chariot to stop. He got off and asked his charioteer, "Why does it appear to me that every single house in the city has been looted from? And tell me, charioteer, has your house also been looted?" Your Majesty, in the city there is a thief called Satuka. He has broken into every single house, has climbed the highest walls, went into the houses of the rich and the poor, and carries off all the property, all the valuable things from the families. So at that moment, the king summoned the mayor, and the mayor came running to the king and said, "Your Majesty, you called?" "Mayor, it seems like that every single house in the city has been ransacked. Is that true?" And the mayor replies, "Oh, Your Majesty, yes. There's a thief called Satuka, and he has ransacked from every single house, even my own." Okay then. So you know his name. You obviously know what he looks like. Why have you not captured him yet? Why have you not thrown him to the dungeons? Your Majesty, we've tried. We've tried to catch him. But we have caught him various times. But every time we've caught him, we have never found the thief and the stolen property together. Sometimes we find the thief, sometimes we find the stolen property, but they are never together. So we cannot prove that he is the thief, even though we know that he is. And so the king said, "Okay, dear mayor, I have something to tell you. If today you capture the thief, you can live. If not, you will be executed. You will have your head cut off." And so the mayor fell onto his knees and worshipped the king, saying, "Oh, please, Your Majesty, don't do that. I'll capture him. I'll somehow do it." So the king gave him 24 hours. So the mayor at that moment stood up, summoned all the guards in the palace, in every single household, anyone. He summoned all of them, all men, anyone who was willing to search for this thief. So Satuka didn't know any of this was happening. While they were planning to capture him, he didn't know, and so he saw a big mansion who had high walls. So using his grappling hook, he climbed that wall, and he went inside the house. He went round and started to fill his sack with every single thing that he could sell. So every single guard was searching every single house for Satuka. But they realized that there was only one house left in the city that he hasn't ransacked from. The house of that rich baron, they remembered. And so they went to the house and saw that looks like he's in there. There are footsteps. It looks like the door has been forced open. But it doesn't look like the door has been forced open. But if you look inside, it looks like everything's in a mess. Wait, I can hear footsteps. He's in there. So the mayor placed as many men as he possibly could around the house and declared siege. So no one is able to come out of the house. And he sent few men inside. But Satuka was enjoying his spree, enjoying his time stealing from the house. He didn't know that the mayor was outside and he was under siege. And so Satuka sensed something wrong. Sensed a bit of tension in the air. And then he heard the front door, people coming in through the front door. So he had to make his escape. His time was up. And so just before he exited the room, a group of very strong guards came in and saw and caught him red-handed. And so they took him, dragged him outside with the stolen property to the mayor. And the mayor was over the moon. He was extremely happy that he has finally caught Satuka. He caught him in the act. And so he went to Satuka and spat on his face, saying, "You know how much trouble you caused me? If I didn't catch you today, my head would be chopped off." And you can imagine the amount of harm that he gave him. So the mayor and the guards and all the men dragged Satuka all the way to the palace and showed him to the king. Your Majesty, here is the thief. Here is the thief Satuka, who had ransacked your whole city. The king didn't need a trial. The king thought that he didn't need a trial and said, take this thief out of my sight. Take him to the cliff where we throw the other thieves and throw him off and have him executed. Now remember that this mayor is now extremely happy that they've caught Satuka, because Satuka has caused so much trouble. Not only trouble as in having the mayor's head chopped off, but think about it. Financial problems as well. Every single household had been ransacked from. That no one could pay the taxes. Think about the amount of trouble that gave the mayor. So he enjoyed his time, the mayor. He enjoyed the last moments of this thief. So from the kingdom all the way to the south gate, at every single crossroad, the mayor would have the thief whipped 1,000 times, 1,000 times at each crossroad. Every single crossroad, whipped 1,000 times this thief. You can imagine that this thief was unconscious, but they dragged him along. You can imagine his back bleeding, but they dragged him along. At that time, the merchant's daughter, remember Bhadda? She heard a commotion down on the street. People shouting, people laughing, screaming, crying out in joy, and you can also hear a person crying in pain. So she opened her window. And scanned the crowd, and saw people were laughing, some people were playing, but they're all walking towards the southern gate. And at last, her eyes fell onto the thief, Satuka. He saw this thief and she placed 2 hands over her heart and went and fell onto her bed. She was the family's only daughter, and so she wasn't a person who her family would like to see sad. Not only that, she even refused to eat. And so her family, her mother, her father, her relatives, maids, servants would come up to cheer her, but nothing would. Nothing could cheer her up. She was depressed, and that's it. And so the mother, not able to bear seeing her like this, asked, darling, what are you doing? Why aren't you eating? Why are you having such a long face? Why are you sad? She replies, Mother, do you see that thief outside? The thief being prepared to be executed? Yes, darling, we see him. If I am able to have him, I will be able to live. But if I don't, I will surely die. I can't eat without him. And so her parents came, the relatives came, the maids came, and they tried to persuade her, tried to say, you can. He's a thief. He's not worthy for you. He's a thief. He might even murder you. But no matter what they said, Bhadda was in her own world, refusing to eat, refusing to drink, refusing to do anything but lie on the bed, staring at the ceiling. They were unable to do anything. No one could have done anything. And so they considered, if we carry on like this, she's going to die. So life is obviously much better than death. So the mother told the father, do something. Save our daughter. So the father went straight to the mayor and told the mayor, Mayor, I have some business to do with you. So the mayor looked suspicious and asked, what is it? He handed the mayor a bag of coins. There are 1,000 gold coins in this bag. My daughter has fallen in love with the thief. She won't eat, she won't drink, she won't do anything if she doesn't have him. Take this money and free him for me. The mayor had to think about this. I think very hard. But if I free him, he's going to go out and he's going to steal again. He's going to go and ransack everyone else's house again. But 1,000 gold coins? Wait. Mister? No, I can't do it. 1,000 is not enough. And so the father was like, well, name your price. I'll give it to you. But just set this man free. And so the mayor thought again, saying, fine. I'll do it. One condition though. You don't leave the thief unattended. That someone has an eye on him all the time. Fine. I'll do anything. Yes, I'll do it. As the mayor said, very well, and went to the thief. So at that time it was around sunset. The sun was slowly setting, leaving the whole city in semi-darkness. And so the mayor said that there's not enough time to go to the cliff today. Let's do it tomorrow. And so they threw Satuka into prison for the night. But while everyone was gone, and while no one was looking, the mayor took another man from the street, threw him in prison, gave the clothes that Satuka was wearing, removed Satuka's handcuffs and put it onto this other man, and told Satuka to go to the merchant's house. And so the merchant's servants grabbed Satuka and took him to the house. Whereas unfortunately, the other man, in the morning, at the break of dawn, he was taken to the high cliff and was thrown to his death. Whereas the actual thief, Satuka, was now in the home of the merchant, living in luxury. So, the merchant, seeing Satuka arrive to his house, thought that today I'll be able to fulfill my daughter's dreams, her desire. And so he had Satuka bathed in scented water, made him wear fine clothes, and sent him to the mansion. And so Bhadda, thinking, today my wish has come through, my desire will be fulfilled, also decorated herself, bathed in scented water, decorated herself, and spent the night with him. So the next few days, they got married, and they lived a happy life together. But although they were married, Satuka wasn't committed. He had other plans. He wanted to steal the jewelry of his wife. So one day, as they were sitting comfortably together, Satuka told Bhadda, there's something that's been bothering me. Would you like me to tell you? And so the merchant, and so Bhadda was very happy and said, yes, darling, speak freely. There's nothing you should hide. And so Satuka said, you know, when I was dragged to my death, dragged to be executed, you may have thought that you saved me. But I prayed to the God living in the mountain and said, if I can live, I'll make an offering to you. And it's because of that my life is saved. So I want to make an offering to this mountain. And so Bhadda, as a faithful wife, said, okay, I'm going to help him. I'm going to help him with the offering. And said, okay, we'll do it tomorrow morning. And so she went out to prepare for this offering. And so the next morning, she decorated herself with jewelry. And so Satuka urged Bhadda to wear the finest ones, whereas he wore the finest jewelry that he had, the finest clothes that he had as well. And so they all got into the carriage. And remember the promise that the father gave the mayor to not let Satuka out of sight. So wherever they went, they always went with an entourage. And so this large group of people went to this mountain. And so at the bottom of the mountain, they got off the carriage and they started to go on foot. But Satuka thought, if we all go to the mountain, I won't be able to steal the jewelry, because someone will see me, obviously. So I have to do something. And so he stopped and told everyone, okay, I would like to make this offering by myself, with my wife, obviously. It's because it's very personal, because the God living in the mountain saved me. And because he saved me, I got my beautiful wife. And so in one hand he took the offering vessel, in the other he took his wife's hand. And so they ascended the mountain. So they had a very friendly chat as they climbed the mountain. But Bhadda was a bit suspicious. She was very smart. She could tell that there was something else here that she was missing. That when he spoke, he wasn't speaking as he would normally. And from his gestures, she could deduce that he has something else in mind. And so she understood his intention. He said to his wife, Bhadda, take off your robe and your jewelry and make and tie it here. But Bhadda knew what he was planning to do and said, do I have to? Yes, this is how you make an offering to this God. Take off the jewelry and put it there. Put it right there. And so she did what she was told, but then also said, husband, what have I done wrong? What is my fault? I can help you. I can do anything you ask. Please tell me what I've done wrong. And so Satuka replies, fool, do you think I came here to give offerings to this God? I could have given anything, but I have come here to take your ornaments, to take your jewelry. Oh husband, why would you take my jewelry? I am your wife. I'm your beloved wife. Whatever I own, you own as well. These are yours as well. Well, wife, to be honest, even though we're married, I didn't feel it. I wasn't committed. Your property is one thing, and my property is another. Very well, husband, but let me fulfill one wish. Give me permission to do one thing. Let me worship you from the front and give you a hug in the front, and let me worship you from behind. So on the spot, she had to think about something because her husband is planning to murder her. So she had to think on the spot. She had to make a plan on the spot. But luckily, she thought of something. She wanted to worship her husband. And so the husband thought, wow, this woman is great. She's going to worship me in her last moment. And said, very well, do as you will. And so She went to the front, worshipped, and hugged him. And from behind, she worshipped, and she made it look like she was going to hug him, but actually, she pushed him off the cliff. She pushed him where he was originally going to go before they got married. And so he fell in the air and he was crushed to death. And a goddess who lived on the mountain saw this and said, "Not on every occasion is a man that is wise. A woman is wise also. She is wise now and then. Not on every occasion is a man wise. A woman is wise also, if she but thinks for a moment." Well, which means if a person, whether it's a man or a woman, because it says not every occasion a man is wise, right? So it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. You can only be wise if you think for a moment. Looks like that deity was someone who was very philosophical, isn't it? Because she thought for that moment. Because that could have ended in various amount of ways. But she didn't. She thought. But you see, she was very ashamed of her actions. Because think about it, she was someone good. She was someone who was on the path to becoming an arhat, even though she didn't know. She was fulfilling her perfections throughout samsara, so she knows that killing is bad, but what could she do? It was either her death or the death of the thief. Anyway, she thought she was guilty, she was ashamed, and so she thought, I'm not able to return back home. Because back in those days, divorces were very rare and they were ashamed. But think about it, the wife murdering the husband, you can almost say that's worse than cheating in their eyes. So she thinks, I will go forth. I want to ordain. I want to be someone that's not going to be in this world ever again. But unfortunately, she wasn't exposed to the Dharma. She didn't know who the Buddha was. She didn't know who the Dharma was. She didn't know what the Sangha was. So what she did was, she went around. She went wandering. And she found a monastery. She went inside and saw that these people were very different. And it was difference that she wanted. She wanted to be different from who she was. She didn't want to be Bhadda anymore. She wanted to be someone different. So she decides, I'm going to ordain here. She had gone into a monastery not of the Buddha, not of the Mahasangha, but one of Nigantha's. So she went and asked, Venerable Sir, can I please be ordained? And so they asked, okay, what sort of ordination do you want? Do you want, what level of ordination? And so Bhadda said, please give me the highest, the supreme one, the best one. And they all said, very well. And they led her to the back of the monastery. You see, the highest ordination that the Niganthas gave were her hair was plucked off, was pulled off by the shell of 2 palm nuts. So that's almost like a tweezer. Her hair was pulled out. Think about how much pain that must have been. You don't need to be male or female to feel that. If you don't understand how much pain that would have been, just reach onto your head and try pulling your hair. Pulling one strand. Now, she had that pulled out. She had all her hair pulled out. But due to her past karmas, her hair grew back in ringlets and curvy and wavy curls. And therefore, they gave her a name, Kundala Kesha, which meant curly hair. So she lived in this monastery for quite some time, and she learnt everything they taught. And every day she would go and learn something new. But in a very short period of time, she understood that this is all they can teach. I'm not satisfied. I haven't learned what I want. She was searching for something, but she didn't know. She had a hollow feeling in her heart, but she was searching. But she didn't know what it was. So she decided this is not the right place. And she left. She became one of the wandering ascetics. They wandered from town to town, city to city, village from village, to find another teaching. There, wherever she met someone who knew something, she would argue, she would debate, to prove her point that she was right. And within no time, she got the name the debating ascetic. Because no matter who came in front of her, she won the debate. She saw that no one could satisfy her knowledge, but she saw that no one can also defeat me. I am undefeatable. So, having the new name, having a new title, the undefeated debating ascetic, Kundala Kesha. So, whenever she entered a village, a town, city, what she would do is she would pile up sand and she would set a branch of rose apples, in other words, jambu. And she says, whoever is able to debate with me, he should trample down this branch. And she informed everyone in town. She told the children to spread the message that she's in town. If anyone's able to debate with her, trample on the branch. But by that time, she had already got the name. No one debated with her because it was impossible to defeat. Her ideas were very strong. So, she waited the first day, second day, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. On the seventh day, she leaves the village, goes to the next one. So, that was her life. Go from village to another, debating with others. If no one comes in 7 days, she leaves the next one. Because she was smart. She used her intelligence to bring upon this ego that no one can defeat me. And that was the point that helped her as well. You see, the knowledge deluded her. Her knowledge deluded her in thinking that she knew everything. But we'll see what knowledge did to her afterwards as well. So at this time, the Buddha was living in Jetavana monastery and in Savatthi. From town to town, city to city, Kundala Kesha, the ascetic Kundala Kesha, was coming closer to the city, Savatthi. And when she entered the city, she did as she would do traditionally. She would pile up the sand and place the branch of rose apple and tell the children to spread the message. At that time, the venerable Sariputta, the foremost among monks with wisdom, second to the Buddha, had entered the city and saw the rose apple branch. And he asked the children, "Children, why is this branch placed like that?" The children, without leaving a single word out, just like they memorized everything she said, told him the message. And so the Venerable Sariputta said, "Okay, if that's so, children, please take it and trample on it." Some of them listened to the elder, and they trampled on the branch. And at that moment, it was crushed to powder. Whereas some of them were too scared. So the ascetic Kundala Kesha, after having her meal, she saw that the branch was trampled on and asked, "Who did this? Who trampled on my branch?" And so the children told her, "Ascetic, it was the venerable Sariputta who trampled on your branch. Now she thought, the venerable Sariputta? He must know his intelligence, because no one dares to trample my branch. So he must know that he's very intelligent. He must surely be a great man. But I have entered the city, I have entered the village, and I have put down the challenge. So it is right to go forward in my plans and debate with him. And so she spread the message to all the families, saying that today she'll be debating with the venerable Sariputta. And all 80,000 families were informed. Just like a normal day, the venerable Sariputta went begging for alms. He went down and sat under a tree and took his meal. Then the ascetic Kundala Kesha, surrounded by a large crowd of people, went to the presence of the venerable, and they exchanged greetings and took their sides. She asked, "Venerable sir, were you the one who had my branch trampled down?" "Yes, I had it trampled down." "If that's so, Venerable sir, let there be a discussion on the doctrine, yours and mine." "Be that so, Bhadda." "Okay, so who should start and who should answer?" The Venerable Sariputta replies, "Our questions are ready. You can ask according to your understanding." And then Kundala Kesha started. She asked the first question, second question, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and the Venerable Sariputta answered them like a graceful swan swimming in its lake. Soon, the ascetic Kundala Kesha ran out of questions. She has no more questions to ask. And so she fell silent. Then Venerable Sariputta asked her, "Kundala Kesha, you have asked me many things, but will you give me permission to ask you one?" "Ask away, Venerable sir." "What is said to be one?" Now, surely she pondered on this, thinking, he couldn't mean God, or the Mahabharata, or the infinite. He couldn't mean this, and this, because there's so many ones. How can I point out what is the one? He's almost asked something impossible. And so she said, "Venerable sir, I don't know. What is said to be the one?" And so Venerable Sariputta replies saying, "Okay, then if you don't know even that much, how will you know anything else?" Now she didn't know what to do or say. She fell right there at the elder's feet and said, "Venerable sir, I go to you for refuge." But Sariputta replied saying, there's no point coming to me for refuge. You should go to the greatest person ever for refuge. He is currently dwelling in a monastery nearby. Go to him. Go to the Buddha for refuge. There she says, I will, Venerable sir." At that time, it was in the evening, and the Buddha was preaching the Dharma. So she went to the Buddha and worshipped him. And the Buddha preached one Dhampada Gata. Saha sampiche Gata, anatta padasanghita, etang Gata padang seyo, yang sutva upasammati. which meant even though one possesses 1,000 lines of verses which are unbeneficial, it is greater to know one line of verse which, having heard, one is calmed. Now, at the conclusion of this verse, so she just went to the Buddha, worshipped him, and just standing there, she attained arahathood. She realized the truth. She realized that knowledge is not power. That learning all this is not worth it. It does nothing but learning one line, but having heard that, you are relieved from all of this suffering. Now that is something worth it. Having understood the full Dharma in 4 verses, she became an arhat. She realized the truth. At that moment, she worshipped the Buddha and asked to be ordained for the 2nd time. The teacher agreed and told her to go to the nunnery, where she ordained. And later that day, there was discussion between the monks, the nuns, the lay men and women who were all there, saying, look how great she is. Look how great Kundala Kesha is. She understood the Dharma in 4 verses. Think about it, 4 verses. And so, for this reason, the Buddha gave the title, the foremost nun, the foremost among the nuns who were quick to understand the deep knowledge, is my daughter, Kundala Kesha. Kundala Kesha. And so, having learned the Dharma, having understood the Dharma, becoming an arahat, having the title, the foremost nun who understood the Dharma, the foremost among nuns who was quick to understand the deep knowledge of the Dharma. She decided she would spread the Dharma. She wanted to spread the teaching of the Buddha throughout the world. And so she decided to travel up north, preaching the Dharma, guiding others to the same place that she was. It is said that, she says, free from defilements for 50 years, I travelled in Anga and Magadha. Among the villages in Kasi and Kosala, I ate the alms food of the land. That lay supporter, wise man indeed, who gave a robe to Bhadda, has generated abundant merits, for she is one free of all ties, free of all bonds. So she's saying that once she travelled across the whole of the north of the country, preaching to everyone, and an old man, a wise man, offered a robe to her, and that accumulated a lot of merit because she was an arhat. Think about it. She had become an arhat, someone free from all defilements, someone who had not a single bit of dirt on them. She was a very intelligent woman. She was very intelligent. But you can see how intelligence, knowledge, doesn't help with ignorance and attachment, because she fell in love with a thief and she couldn't eat, she couldn't sleep, she couldn't do anything until he had his hand in marriage, because we should know ignorance and attachment. And how pride made her do many things. How pride made her wander across villages to see if anyone could debate against her. But the pride was shattered by the Venerable Sariputta. The Venerable Sariputta just asked one question and a whole debating grid dropped, smashed on the floor. Because she was ready to understand Dharma. She was very intelligent. Because if you think about it, right? Kundala Kesha, when the Venerable Sariputta asked, what is the one? She could have answered and said something very simple.
But she knew that Venerable Sariputta is somewhat a great man. She had already understood that he was a great man before he even opened his mouth. And don't forget, even though she murdered, you can call it murder or manslaughter, it doesn't matter, but she was involved in killing her husband. For self-defense or not, she did, didn't she? But yet she became an arhat. Let's not forget that. She became an arhat even though she pushed her husband off the cliff. See, this is something we always come back to. The past is in the past. Leave your past behind. Because if she didn't leave her past behind, could she become an arhat? Obviously not. She had to leave her past behind. And therefore, she became an arhat. But remember, she didn't just leave it. She used it. She used that moment to ordain. And let's not forget, she didn't know who the Buddha, the Dhamma and Sangha was. She went to a monastery of the Niganthas. People who practice extremism. People who had different views to the Buddha. And she asked for the supreme, the highest ordination. She wasn't aiming for something low. She was aiming for the best. She was aiming for the greatest, the highest, the supreme. And when she wasn't fulfilled, she went further. See, it doesn't say that she stayed there for 5-6 days and then started wandering. She stayed there until she learned their teaching. And she was able to argue against them. And when the question came that she couldn't have answered, that's when she left. But she left looking for the answer. She went looking for the answer. It was not that she just it's fine, I could find the answer another time. No. She had a problem in mind and she wouldn't stop until she found the answer. That's determination. That's courage. These are all great qualities that she had. And think about it. She was also a human. Because sometimes we feel that these arahats are people who are out of the scope. They are not humans. They are almost great aliens almost. But she also fell in love with a thief. Have you not heard stories like that before? She also, like you and I, have ego, pride. These are all things that she had to get rid of. But she was wise, she was intelligent. She understood the Dharma in 4 verses. That's what made her special. So, be like her. Be like a person who is very smart. And you can also imagine, right? When she's wandering, she doesn't blabber about random gossip. She doesn't go to one town saying, that town over there, they had this and this and this, and it smelled like this and this and this, and it looked like this and this and this. None of that. She didn't gossip. She was focused on her aim. She was focused. So be focused. Be like her. Be focused. Be intelligent. Be smart. And let's not forget what the deity said, right? A person is not wise by birth. A person is wise if they think for a moment. If you think for a moment, for that moment you're wise. So the deity is pretty much saying, the goddess is pretty much saying, think. Think and you'll be wise. So are you someone who is wise or are you someone who is foolish? Don't let a moment go past. Be a wise person. Because not everyone is wise. Only the wise is able to get what they want. Right. So that brings us to the conclusion of the great Arhat, the venerable Kundala. She was smart. She was clever. intelligent. And yet she became an arhat. She murdered her husband, but yet she became an arhat. Which means you and I and everyone, we all have a chance. Think about it. She learnt about Venerable Sariputta. She learnt about the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha after debating with him. She wasn't born a Buddhist. She became a Buddhist. So, because she became a Buddhist, she became an arhat. So, if you're born a Buddhist, you've got the upper hand. Because you already know who the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha is. So use the upper hand. And use it to attain your liberation. Be like the venerable Kundala Kesha. Okay. So let's take a few moments to transfer all the merits we acquired throughout the day. And remember, whenever we do merits, remember to keep on making a firm determination that may these merits help me become an arhat. And use that to help you to take that in the next step. Use the lives of the arhats to take the next step. One step at a time. Take baby steps. Because you need to learn how to crawl before you can learn how to run. So, let's take a few moments to transfer the merits we've acquired by making offerings to the infinite virtues of the Noble Triple Gem, chanting Pirit, listening to the Dharma, and engaging in various meritorious deeds today. So first and foremost, let's remind ourselves how incredibly fortunate we are to be in receipt of Lord Buddha's teaching. And with immense gratitude, let us transfer the merits to the Bhikshu, Bhikshunis, Upasakas, Upasikas, who since time immemorial have protected and preserved the sublime teaching of the Buddha and passed it down to generation of the noble lineage in the form of the Tripitaka, which is thankfully available to us today to study, to understand, to comprehend the Dharma. Let us take a moment to transfer merits acquired to all the members of the Mahasangha present throughout the world, including the chief prelates of all the chapters, who have dedicated their lives to the noble path and committed themselves to the betterment of all sentient beings. Let us not forget that among them will be the monks and nuns resident in your local temple, and nunneries who have always been by your side through thick and thin, come rain or shine. Let us also take a moment to transfer merits to Guru Swami Namaste and all of the monks resident in this monastery, as well as the Anagarikas and Anagarikas attached to the monastery. Let us take a moment to transfer merits and express our gratitude to those who make great efforts to disseminate the teachings of the Lord Buddha, be that by translating these sermons, sharing them out with others, inviting others to join them. May through the power of the merits, if any of them have been born in the woeful plane, may they redeem themselves and be born in the blissful plane. May through the power of the merits, may they abstain from the meritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble effort path, and attain supreme bliss Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us take a moment to transfer merits that we all acquire to our devotees, friends of the monastery, who for sake of merits continue to sustain the Mahasangha. This includes everyone of you who have contributed to the construction of the monastery, to those of you who provide the Mahasangha with shelter, alms, robes, medicines, as well as those who pass their know-how, extend their well wishes. May the power of the merits, may they abstain from their meritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble effort path, and attain supreme bliss Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us all take a moment to transfer merits to our mothers, fathers, husbands and wives, brothers and sisters, sons and daughters, grandparents, uncles, aunts, cousins, nephews, nieces, our elders, friends and acquaintances, employers, employees, and to all those who have helped us, supported us, assisted us in any way, shape or form. By the power of the merits, may they be healed of any physical or mental ailments. May they overcome any obstacles in their spiritual progress. May they abstain from the meritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble effort path, and attain the supreme bliss Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let's all take a moment to transfer merits to the Devas, Brahmas, spirits, demons, primarily the Sakradeva, as well as numerous gods and deities, who are committed to protect and fulfill the Sambandha Sasana. Let us all take a moment to transfer merits to our guardian deities, who keep a watchful eye over us and keep us out of harm's way. May through the power of the merits, may they prosper in divine power and wisdom, may they abstain from their meritorious deeds, fulfill their meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble effort path, and attain supreme bliss Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us take a moment to transfer merits to our ancestors who predeceased us, to all those who have been our friends, families, acquaintances in this infinitely long journey samsara, and to those who have helped us, supported, assisted us in any way, shape or form. Let us take a moment to transfer merits to the members of the armed forces as well as the police force who sacrificed their lives to protect the peace and harmony of our nation. May all those who lost their life in war be their friend or foe, rejoice in the merits we acquire today. Let us also take a moment to transfer merits to all those who lost their lives in natural calamities such as tsunamis, earthquakes, landslides, pandemics, reminding ourselves that among them will be those who have been our friends and family to us in this long journey in samsara. Let's take a moment to transfer our minds to them. May through the power of the mess, if any of them have been born on the birth plane, may they redeem themselves and be born on the blissful plane. May they obtain from the meritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble way for path into the supreme Muslim one. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Finally, let us all resolve may the power and blessings of all the merits we acquire throughout the day. We be able to witness the event of many hundreds of thousands of arahats in this blessed land. And finally, may through the power of all the merits we acquired today, you and I and everyone who made this program a success become Arhat Nuansi, or Arhat Mahin Nuansi in this very life, in the era of the Gautama Supreme Buddha itself. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. May the blessings of the Noble Chibuchem be with you all. Before we conclude, I would like you to drop a comment telling us in which part on the Venerable Kundala Kesha's life that inspired you the most and why. So don't forget to drop a comment below. Okay then. May the Noble Chibuchem be with you all forever.